You've been doing a lot of things like psychic medium, hypnotist, healing facilitator,
Hmm.
spiritual counselor, and you've also visited a water planet in your NDE and your past. You saw your past loved ones. What exactly happened when you were a kid that you later realized was a near-death experience?
What happened was I I was being physically abused by a family member as a child. And one day when he came around, I was in my grandparents' backyard in the vineyard. We had a little vineyard orchard in my grandparents' backyard. My sister and I were living with our grandparents after our parents divorced at the time. And that's where pretty much everything, all my experiences happened as a child was in that house. I was out there because I used to collect agates, rocks and agates. I loved agates, and I still am a crystal hound. And I was out there doing that, looking for agates. I was around 9 years old. I was around nine, yeah. And when I was out there by myself. Nobody else was out there with me. And he came and was trying to get me. And I was fighting him at the time. Sometimes I would just go catatonic, but I was fighting him, and he was hurt, hitting me. He would hit me and beat me and punch me kind of thing. And so he hit me so hard under my ribs that I felt this intense pain, and I popped out of my body through my head, through my head. And at that moment, in that second, in that split second, I felt this immense peace. I didn't feel the pain any longer. I didn't feel, the fear any longer, the terror or anything like that. I just felt this immense peace. I was floating, and I was supported, and I was floating in what I've since then heard people describe as the void. I didn't understand it, as I was in that experience. I didn't understand what the void was or anything like that. And so I was floating in this space of dark, but not dark. It was, some people have called it a nothingness and an everythingness. So there's really no, we don't have the language to describe it. I understand that. But I'm floating there feeling connected to everything. I'm no longer this little girl. I'm all that is, perhaps, as much as I could understand. I'm connected to everything. I have the ability to move my awareness anywhere I want, but I don't really have an awareness that of a universe or a galaxy or anything like that. I just know that I'm this expanded awareness of everything. And I can move my awareness out, and I can move it back in. I could move it back to who I am, and I could move it back out, who I am as the little girl. I could move back and forth my awareness just with just a thought. And also, whew, and I'm writing my book now, so things are coming to me that I didn't remember at the time as well. I'm writing my first book, and I'm writing this book is an uncovering for me too. I'm writing it because I want to be able to help people understand that we have so much support, and we don't really die. We still exist. As I'm writing it, I'm realizing that it's also another healing journey for me as I write it, and go back to these experiences and uncover actually more. So it's every time I write about it, it takes me there. And as I was in that space, I could hear and feel what we would call music, but it's hard to describe again. It was more of a tone, a it was all encompassing. It filled me, and it also was around me, again, supported by this. And it was a tone, a vibrational tone. I get emotional talking about it, where I realized that each note within that symphony, I guess you could say, that symphony of tones was made up of everyone and everything, the all that is, each note within that vibratory space or vibratory symphony was made up of everything, that all that is, everything that has existed, that does exist, that will exist, was all within that toning that I was feeling and hearing that was going through me, and I was a part of it. So I knew that I was a part of that symphony. And symphony doesn't cover it, but that immense sound. And so after that, or during that time, I could sense I was coming back to me, I guess, but I sensed while I was enjoying this beautiful part of everything, I sensed a light or a movement to my right, what I consider would be my right. And I sent my awareness there, and I realized that there was a light moving toward me. And as it became closer, brighter, I realized that it was who I recognized as Jesus, Yeshua, and he moved closer and closer to me. And somehow I was right, and I was back to being the little girl. Okay. But I was, even though I knew I was the little girl that that had just what I considered dying, leaving the earth plane, I still had the awareness of being more than just me as a little girl. Okay. I didn't have the little girl awareness. I had an expanded awareness as well. And so he comes to me and he says, he puts his arms around me and he says to me, "You've suffered enough, little child. You've suffered enough, my child. Excuse me. You've suffered enough, my child. You don't need to, you don't need to go back." It was telepathic, is what he was telling me. And he actually crouched down in front of me and he was looking at me this way because I was in at that awareness of the little girl. And I told him that I wanted to go back. I wanted to go back to my earth life because I hadn't finished what I was meant to do. I had that awareness, right? And he asked me, "Are you sure?" Which came out later. That was a another trigger for me with that phrase right there, "Are you sure?" And so I said yes, because I don't want to have to start over again. And I knew what that meant. That meant to reincarnate, come back and do, and finish my life plan, the plan that I was meant to do in this lifetime. Yeah. And so after that, after I felt that agreement with him, I have no memory other than being back in my body, in my house.
Wow, that is amazing. That was amazing. I'm really surprised. But okay, this is the story after you remembered it, right?
Correct.
So tell me what happened to that little girl. Did she remember anything at all, or what happened to her? And how was her life after that? Did she have secondary effects or something after that?
Well, as a little girl, I did not remember it at all. I didn't even remember the abuse, okay, as I became an adult. My childhood is barely a memory for me. As I had, as I became an adult, and my sister and we would talk about it, and I'd say, I barely remember our childhood. Do you remember any? She goes, "Yeah, bits and pieces." I hardly remembered anything as well. Just little highlights of being a child. That was it. But nothing about the abuse or anything like that. But I did have something in the back of my mind that told me something wasn't right. First of all, why wouldn't I remember anything? Right. And second of all, there's something there and I would dream about abusive situations as well. And so, but I didn't understand them. But there was something in the back of my mind that told me something isn't right, something must have happened. And because of that, I couldn't have I went through relationships. I've never been married. I, would pick the wrong guy, that kind of thing. So I ended up putting myself in similar situations of abuse as an adult in relationships.
Wow.
Yeah. So in in 2000, oh, well, it started actually when my stepfather passed, and he was close to me. I was close to him in 1998, where things started really happening for me. I was a partier too. I would party a lot. I mean, I kept a job down. I was responsible considering my history from what I remember now. And I had a pretty decent job in San Antonio, Texas, and working for an oil company and as a bookkeeper. Then my stepfather passed, and I was very close to him, my mom too. And things started happening for me where I was having what they call sleep paralysis episodes. Okay. Well, at first, I wanted to know what happens when we die because I was raised Catholic, and I didn't quite feel that I felt that there was got to be something more than just heaven and hell and purgatory when we die. Okay. So I needed to know. So I started reading books on mediumship with James von Prague and George Anderson, um, and John Edward, those people that were popular at the time. And it made sense to me. I'm like, this is what makes sense. Now I understand. And it felt so real to me that we actually don't die. This is the truth. In my heart and soul, I knew that this was the truth, the way the conversations that these mediums were having. And so things started happening for me after that with sleep paralysis, where I would wake up and I'm frozen in my bed, and it's scary. I thought I was dying. And yeah, and then in 2001, and again, I didn't remember my experience or my history as a child with the abuse. In 2001, I have another near-death experience where I'm I'm inner tubing down the Guadalupe River with some girlfriends for a friend's birthday. And we come back to we have a really nice day, really great day, and we come back to the shuttle bus for for the driver to take us back to our cars. And it's one of those old school buses. So I get on to climb onto the bus, and I see that the bus is full. And it's one of those little small buses. And I see the bus is full, and so I turn around to get back off, but the there's a crowd of people behind me that are trying to pile on, including my friends trying to pile on the bus. So I said, okay. And they're like, come on, go, let's go. And the people in the back of the bus said, you can stand in the aisle. Come on, let's go. So I get on, and I'm standing in the back of the bus. And he's also pulling a trailer that has our inner tubes and our ice chest in it. So as he's driving down the road, it's a manual gear, so he's shifting through gears, and it's kind of bumpy. The ride's kind of bumpy. So the driver was shifting through gears, and at one point, as he's pulling away from a red light, I believe it was second gear is when it happened, when the back door, I'm thrown up against the back door, and the back door pops open. It wasn't latched correctly, and I fall out of the bus, and I land on the trailer hitch on my back. I bounce off that, and I land on the pavement on my back, and I bounce. I remember the bouncing, and I bounce I bounce onto my side. And at that point, the trailer is about to run over me, and I know this in my mind. I even scream out in my mind, "Stop, you're killing me." And as soon as I scream that out, the wheel from the trailer runs over my head, and I feel it.
Wow.
Yeah, and I feel it. And that's when I pop out of my body again, straight up. And I'm looking down, and I'm there, and I realize, oh gosh, he did kill me. I was thinking I died. I was thinking I died. I wasn't thinking he killed me, but I was thinking I did die. I died because that's what I was thinking in my mind. And I'm looking down, and I see my body in the road, and I also see a big bus. The traffic hasn't stopped yet. So I see a big bus, the commuter bus that carries people around, city bus kind of thing, and it's coming toward my body. I'm thinking in my mind, I hope that bus doesn't run over my body because that would really make a big mess. And it also at the same time I'm thinking, wow, this is really sad for my friends because my friends we had a really good day and this is really going to ruin the day for my friends. Here I go and die on them. I was thinking that. I was thinking about my friends, about my partner who at the time who was I was like, well, he'll be sad, but he'll be fine. And I thought about my sister and her family, and I thought the same thing. She'll be sad for a while, but they'll be fine. They have each other. And then I thought about my mom because my mom was still here and I kind of took care of her. And as I'm thinking about my mom, I feel a presence again on my right and I turn around and I see that it's my stepdad who had died 3 years earlier. And the first thing he says to me is, it's not your time. So I telepath, and it's just telepathic. And I knew how to telepath, and I telepath, but I want to stay. And I was really happy to see him. He looked really good because he was ill when he passed. And he says, it's not your time. And as we're having this conversation, oh, he says, your mom needs me. You still have things to do. And as we're having this conversation, he turns again, and there's what looks like a tunnel or a portal start opening up. And I get the sense, or I see my ancestors within this tunnel. I can see them, and some I recognize and some I don't. And I realize, okay, well, that's where I need to go. But I see the look on their faces was not one of welcoming and celebration. So I'm like, okay, well, huh. And beyond the tunnel is a huge bright light, like the sun, golden light. Another tunnel, I guess you could say, is opening up. And it's bright like beautiful, bright like the sun. And I see a figure walking out of that portal, that tunnel. And as that figure approaches me, I recognize him as who I recognize as Jesus, Yeshua again, this time. And I realized who he is, and I fly to him because I missed him really bad. As a child, it was a little different because I hadn't been, away from him that long and away from, that love that he is. And so, but this, in 2001, in my 40s, I'm like, wow, okay, I missed you so much. And I flew to him and we embraced. He embraced me. Whew. And I tell him how much I miss him. He is telling me, he's chuckling, he's laughing, not laughing at me, but chuckling in this beautiful laughter that is music, like music. And he tells me it's not my time, just like my dad did. He says, it's not your time. Yeah. You still have things to do. And I'm like, but I don't want to go back. And then he laughs some more. And so we have this conversation. And he asked me if I want to. Also, there was a point there, and time doesn't exist there. So it's hard to put this in linear perspective. But as I'm with him, there was a time, a point where I was filled with so much light and love being in his embrace. I felt, as Sharon, first of all, I felt that there was nothing that I could do that would that would make him not love me. Everything that I may have felt bad about, guilty about, anything was washed away in his presence, in his embrace. It was washed away. And as he was holding me and we were communicating, I felt this merging of light with him, light and love. And I could not tell who was who, whether he was me or I was him. I could not tell. It was a oneness. We were at one within the light, within the love of that who he is, God's love, God's light, source, all that is, whatever we want to symbol we want to put on it. And so I felt that immense love and support once more, just like I was feeling in that void space. It was filled with light this time. And so I'm basking in that. And then after a little while, and again, I don't know how long, could be an eternity, it could be a second, I don't know. I just know the feeling of it and remember it's the immenseness of it and the all loving of being there with him. In that, I was the light. It was tangible. It was me. And then we have this conversation where he asked me if I want to go on a journey with him. Okay. And I say, yes, of course. How could I, no, yes, of course. So he holds out his hand and I take his hand. And instantly we are moving through what I would consider the cosmos. I see lights and it's also hard for me to, because I couldn't tell if we're moving through or it's moving through us. There's movement and I see lights whizzing by us, that type of thing. And then we come closer to a light that becomes brighter and brighter. And he's intuitively letting me know that this is like a home world for me. And it looks like a planet. It's a water planet. Okay. Yeah. And we're floating above it and he's helping me understand that after my life plan here on earth, after my work here on earth, after our work here on earth, right, is finished, that I can return there if I want and have an expression there. Okay. And so, or be aware of that expression because we're experiencing all over the place, right? As the one mind, God source is what I remembered. And so as I'm hovering above, we're together hovering above, and he's giving me this information. We're communicating. He's giving me so much information. And I have this awareness of being the planet. I am the planet now. My awareness is moving out and down, out as the planet. And as the planet, I have so much love and caring for every single being, every single microbe, the smallest to the largest on my body as the planet. So much love for them, for everything because I realize that all of this makes up who I am as the planet. And I can also move my awareness down. So we start moving our awareness down to the planet and enter the water. And I'm in the water and it's home to me. It feels like home, another home other than being with source, being with all that is. And I'm moving through the water with him. He's holding my hand. And then I greet my family there because I I have a family there. And so it was like I had never left, basically. I have a mate, I have children, I have family. And I'm moving through that experience as if I had never left. And the one I recognize is Yeshua, as Jesus. He's no longer Yeshua or Jesus, he's my mate in that water world. So there was that transformation there where he was able to take me into that world and help me understand that I do have an expression here as well, where it's peaceful, loving, pure freedom and flowing, that type of thing. These bodies can feel kind of heavy in this dense reality. There, that it was just pure movement and freedom through water, or that water world. So again, I don't know how long I was there, perhaps a lifetime or two. I don't know. And the next thing I know, the next memory I have is being back in my body on this planet here in the middle of the road. And I jump up, gather myself, jump up. I'm actually able to jump up, and I'm aware. I'm disoriented, of course. And my friends, he had stopped the bus by then, and my friends gather around me, call an ambulance. The ambulance takes me to the hospital, and I do not have a concussion. I did not have a concussion. I have road rash on my body because it was summer, and we were wearing summer clothes, shorts and things like that, and have road rash. Also, my hair starts falling out because I have tire tracks on my head. And they even teased me in the hospital that I had tire tracks on my head. Yeah. But I did not remember that experience right away either. It was way too much for me to remember all of that. So it took me a little while, 2 years, when my mother, after she passed, and I was communicating with her because I had learned how to bring my mediumship abilities back and things like that, uh, where I was slowly reintroduced to him because I did not feel worthy when I came back here. I did not feel worthy of so much love and caring, and why me kind of thing, because we're kind of programmed that way.
Okay, so the wheel ran over your head and nothing happened to you. I mean, you got up and you were okay?
Well, I wouldn't say I was okay, but I wasn't hurt like I should have been.
Right.
Yeah, I was protected. I was protected. Also, I
Okay.
believe that the light merging and also the trip to the water planet helped heal me tremendously. Did have a back injury, which I
Oh,
may
okay.
still maintain to this day. Yeah. Yeah. And my
Okay.
head felt like it had been put in a vice afterwards. So I couldn't sleep on my side for 2 years. I could only sleep on my back.
Oh, okay. So you
Yeah.
you were really affected. And
Yeah.
what about these water creatures? Were they human-like, or do you remember their shapes?
My memory of them is that they were human-like. They, you might call them mers or something like that. I'd always been attracted to the water and to mermaids. Yeah, they were beautiful. They were beautiful beings. Hmm.
Oh, this second experience in 2001 was before or after you became a psychic medium, a hypnotist, a healing facilitator, and all that, before you awakened spiritually. Can you talk a little bit about who you are now, who you are today, how that little girl today is making a difference in the spiritual world?
Those experiences led me to understand that we do come here with a plan, and that we are here to heal any agreements, traumas that we have. And I do believe that we have agreements with our soul groups. I realized that the abuser in that lifetime, as I remember Joshua was working with him, that he and I had gone through this cycle through many, many, many lifetimes, where he would come back and lower his frequency so much that he would agree to help me clear traumas of a lifetime that I didn't clear when we made that agreement originally. So I realized that I didn't really need to forgive anything. I didn't need to forgive him because he loved me so much and loves me so much that he agreed to come back in different expressions, different experiences, lifetime after lifetime, and help me be able to heal and bring that memory into the whole of my oversoul. So I remembered that because Yeshua worked with me diligently. I made an agreement after I remembered our experience together to be in my room every night at 9 p.m. with meditation with him and work on healing myself so that I could move into that space and realize my abilities to be able to help others realize their true self. And that's my goal is to help anyone who, and as many people as I can reach or come in contact with me to help them realize their true self and that we have everything we need within us. And it's not what we need is not outside of us, it's within us. And I started to practice. I moved back home to Oregon. I'm in the Portland, Oregon area. And I started to practice as a psychic medium because there's a lot that went along with it, but I was starting to realize that I had those abilities again. As a child, I could see things, had premonitions. I did remember some of that. And I saw my grandfather after he passed, and I was seeing a couple dead people around every once in a while. But what he helped me understand is, or helped me remember my abilities so that I could help others remember theirs. And so I started an academy, which I named after him. I dedicate to him, the Kumara Academy of Transformation. And I teach courses as well on helping us to go as deep as possible within our inner and find our inner light again.
I remember that, one of the leaders, the White Brotherhood is Sanat Kumara, together with Saint Germain and all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Are you in touch with the ascended masters or only with Jesus?
As I was working with him, I did start getting in touch with Saint Germain and Kuthumi,
Oh, okay.
and yeah,
Yeah,
and those
Kutumi is the other
masters,
one.
Kuthumi and
Yeah,
Paul Hilarion and Paul the
Hilarion.
Venetian,
Yeah,
Paul the
right.
Venetian, Hilarion. Yes, I did start
Yeah.
working with them, and of course Mary Magdalene, and Mother Mary, Kuan Yin. The masters that are working diligently with us.
Okay.
Archangel
Great.
Michael is always with me, of course, and I don't work with them as much as I used to unless someone wants me to channel them because I do channel them as well,
Oh,
if
okay.
someone wants a session. But I mainly work with Yeshua now. He wanted me to open up my channels to work with other beings so that I could experience and
Okay.
be able to discern as well.
The only thing that you did not mention and that perhaps would be interesting is
Uh-huh.
how did you recover your memory? Because you said that in your second DND you remembered your first, but
Oh, right.
you did not explain that. So can you
Okay.
say something briefly?
Okay. So as I was working with Yeshua during my meditations, which were very deep for me, he taught me how to meditate back then. And I was recalling as I was working with him, I started remembering my childhood, the abuse and things like that, and also extraterrestrial contact. Those were coming up, and I didn't know anything about extraterrestrials at the time. I'm like, whoa, what the heck? And so a lot of this was like, I don't know about this. So, I thought I was crazy. Of course, when you start remembering all these traumas and things that are really strange that we don't talk about, so it was swept under the rug, of course. That's and during these meditations, I would actually during my day, because I was working a job too, as I was going through what Yeshua called a quickening and awakening. So during my day and at work, I could feel in my body when something was a memory was bubbling up to the surface. I could feel it, and I had to find a safe place. Actually, now that I think about it, my higher self was very, very kind, where it wouldn't be anything too dramatic at work, but I knew that I had to go home and process whatever was coming. I did have and I also started having anxiety and panic attacks, things like that. That was all coming up for me, and I was remembering these things. And one day during an episode, as I was meditating and bringing it through, I had to just sit with it. He told me just sit with it and bring it through. Is when I remembered the NDE as a child. It started out with me, the whole memory started with that. being out in the backyard at my grandmother's house or recognizing as my grandmother's house at that age. And then when I'm having these memories, it's not like a dream. I'm fully in it. I can feel the pain in my body. I can smell the vomit because that happened quite a bit. I can feel the terror. And a lot of times I would just pop out and watch it from above sometimes as I'm in the abuse space, when I'm in that terrifying space. And I would, end up being catatonic down on the ground, but I'm watching from above. And then that one time is when I did more than just watch. I actually had no memory of watching at all. I was just in that space of being in the void. The pain was so intense, and I mean, I can't prove that I died. It doesn't matter, but I was in that space where I thought I thought I had died. But there was
Okay.
total peace, total peace.
That's really, really interesting. How do you offer your services, and what services do you offer? Are these free? Do people have to pay? What is more or less your offer?
Yes, I do offer a lot of free services. I have a YouTube channel where partner and I do readings mini readings once a month. We do a lot of we have weekly live broadcasts where open forums, things like that. So I do have a lot of free content on my YouTube channel. My practice is a business for me. It's how I make a living. I'm doing what I love. And so I do help people with sessions, with spiritual counseling, readings, mediumship readings, that type of thing. And also I specialize in past life therapy, helping to remove blocks through past life therapy, which is what Yeshua taught me and helped me remember. I believe we're just remembering. We already know all this. We're just remembering. So he's helping us. They are our guides, our angels, Yeshua, and the masters we work with are helping us remember who we really are. So I do that, and also have an academy where I teach courses. I'm in the middle right now of an automatic writing and channeling course. And I teach psychic development, mediumship development courses. I also am a avid astral projector, out-of-body traveler, lucid dreamer. I teach courses on that and also dream work. I've been taught that our dream time is very important for our spiritual growth, to be conscious in that space. So I teach that. I also do have free discussion groups on Zoom as well. And and I'm writing my book.
Great. And how can people contact you?
People can contact me through my website, www.sharonsananda.com. That's SharonSananda.com, or my email, sharonsananda@gmail.com.
I'm really interested. I also had sleep paralysis when I was a kid, and I learned lucid dreaming in order to escape from my nightmares. And I've had many contacts with masters in dreams and all that. So it's really interesting. So I'm really glad I interviewed you. I would be interested in interviewing you on other topics.
Sure, I'd be honored. I'd love to. I love talking about this. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Okay, well, thank you, AJ. Let me know when you put that up, and I'll
Sure.
Okay, my friend. Thank
you.
Take
care. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.